Um, it is beautiful. It goes on for another like 4 or 5 minutes. The same. I find it so interesting that today when people complain about praise music, and as my mom calls them 7-11 songs, you sing 7 words 11 times. But my mom loves praise music. But this whole song is all about 7 words sung about 55 times. And it is an amazing song. For unto us a child is born. Well, you know, names are important. Names are important to within our birth. Isaac of the Old Testament, his name means laughter because his mom laughed when the angel said that Isaac would be born because Sarah was way past the age of childbearing. Moses' name means to be drawn out. Remember, Moses was put in the Nile, and he was drawn out of the Nile. His name means drawn out. Jacob means deceiver. Remember how Jacob deceived his twin brother, Esau? Jacob means deceiver. Jabez in the Old Testament. We just have that one little word or prayer about Jabez. Jabez means sorry. Names have meaning within our lives. Names have meaning within our character of who we are. Alexander the Great. William the Conqueror. Simon the Zealot. John the Baptizer. Judas Iscariot. I don't know. I've never seen anybody name their kid Judas. Have any of you? I've never seen anybody's name Judas. Why is that? Because it goes back to the Bible. Names mean something to us. Well, what we looked at 3 weeks ago was in the Isaiah 11. It talks about out of the stump of Jesse. And Jesse is the father of King David. Out of the stump of Jesse would come a shoot. And Isaiah says in Isaiah 11 that shoot's going to come out for what looks barren, cut down, and dead. The Messiah is going to come. Oops. Jump back one, Scott. I got trigger happy. What we read here in Isaiah chapter 9 is, nevertheless. We looked 2 weeks ago at the idea of that word nevertheless, because you got to go back to chapter 8 because there's all the gloom and doom, all the darkness going on for the northern 10 tribes. So Isaiah says, nevertheless, even though there's all that darkness going on. And 2 weeks ago, we talked about the nevertheless in our life. And I could say right now, nevertheless, for Bob Bullis, though he's going through what he is, there's still light in his life. Nevertheless, what Pat's going through, there's still light in his life. Nevertheless, what Joyce is going through, there's still light in her life. Nevertheless, what Winnie Cabour's going through with going to the hospital, there's still light in her life. Nevertheless, what Kurt Lincoln's gone through with the dying passing of his father, there's still light in his life. Nevertheless, Carol and Harriet, you're with us. We had 2 celebration of life services. Nevertheless, going through the darkness of the loss, there is light in life. You follow me with that? And what's going on here for Isaiah 8 and Isaiah 10 is there's the darkness of life that's going on in that. When the stuff hits the fan in our life, there is still that light of God. So Isaiah says, Nevertheless, there will be no more gloom for those who were in distress. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. Those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned on them. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given. Isaiah 9 says, as Isaiah 11 says, that child comes from the stump of Jesse, the shoot. And the government will be on his shoulders. Names have meaning. My name, Gregory, means watchman. And ever since I've been a kid, when my parents told me that, I always thought, and I felt that since I was a little kid, I was called to be a pastor. What God created me to be. And what are pastors called to do? To be a watchman. To walk with other people. Names have meaning. Well, this morning I want you to think about these names of Jesus. And ask yourself, which name resonates with you right now? Okay, let me repeat that. I want you to think about it as we just look at these names. Which name resonates with you right now? And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. I think, Scott, does my next slide have these names a little bigger? You go to the next one. What does it look like? Yeah, there we go. Thanks. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Just think, which name resonates, which name hits you right here? In some respects, I'd like to pass the mic around and have all of you say which name touches you right now. I think during different times of our life, different names might come up, and there might be a different name with different situations within our life. Wednesday night, the sermon study group, we looked at this, and I had 6 people, and all 6 of them and myself, we chose the names that resonated with us. Well, the first one, Wonderful Counselor. Now, I was warned I probably shouldn't bring this up, but I will. There is discussion, and I was only 1 out of 7 that night that agreed with this, but there is discussion within the church, within theologians. Some say this is one name together. Others say there should be a comma there. You notice the song we just sang? Wonderful Counselor. There's a pause there. So there is discussion with that. And so either way you look at it is okay. I mean, it's not a salvation issue thing, but there is some thought. But we're going to look at all 4 of these names just briefly this morning. Wonderful Counselor. That's the one that for me has resonated, not just now, but for many, many years. It's the one that tends to stay with who I am. Mick Motika chose that one too. Wonderful Counselor. That's the one that he says really at present time fits where he's walking. Wonderful. Wonderful. Christ is wonderful. His birth was wonderful. His life was wonderful. His teaching, his miracles, the transfiguration. And even though we call it Good Friday, his death was wonderful because it gave us life. His resurrection was wonderful. His ascension was wonderful. His teachings were wonderful. The waves and the winds obeyed him. His healing powers. He was able to have the mute speak. He was able to cause the ones who were lepers to be healed within their bodies. He was able to bring back from dead those who were dead. Bring them back to life. He was wonderful. And the wonder of who Jesus is it's incomprehensible to you and I. Some of you might have been surprised in my prayer when I prayed, Lord, you're the Trinity, but we don't understand how that all works. We don't. I don't. And if anybody tries to explain to me how it works, I'm going to question. Because the reality is it's beyond our understanding. It's incomprehensible. But it's in Scripture. So it says it, so we believe it. So there's the wonder of who Jesus is. He has no limits. And there is that wonder, the incomprehendibleness of who Christ is, who goes into Christ's counseling. Counseling is today at an all-time high. All you got to do is turn on your TVs, turn on cable, whatever, and you can get all the way from all the different counselors that we have. Dr. Phil, Oprah. Probably some of you watch all these counselors on TV. There's a huge push for us to do that and to look at ourselves. And the phrase I've used often, a life unexamined is a life not worth living. Some of you maybe have recalled me saying that. We need to examine who we are. We need to question. We need to get into counseling sometimes But the reality is, too much of the counseling that we may have, and maybe, and this might, I don't mean to rub any of you the wrong way, but too much of the counseling may just be the emotional that's going on or the mental, and if we forget the spiritual, we really truly do not get at what's going on. AA, for a while, there were some places some years ago, AA got rid of one of their steps of believing in the higher power, and later on that higher power being God. Those groups that got rid of God in AA did not work. Why is it? Because it's a spiritual battle that we're in within our lives. Christ is that wonderful counselor. Who better to go to than Jesus Christ for all of the issues, all of the struggles that we have within our life? He is always available. He always gives us his undivided attentions. He comforts us. Christ knows the depths of science. He made the atom, and the atom waits for his orders. He knows the depths of creation. He knows how big the sun needed to be in order so that it wouldn't burn up the earth or it wouldn't freeze the earth. He knows the distance that we need to be from the sun. He knows the depths of the truth of life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. He knows that. He knows the depth of time, the past, present, future of time. He knows the depth of our sin. For all have been created in sin. All of us. He knows that. He knows the plans of all men. Romans 11 says this, "Oh, the depth of the riches of his wisdom and the knowledge of God. How unsearchable his judgment and his paths beyond tracing out. Who has known the mind of God, or who has seen his or who has been his counselor? Who has ever given to God that God should repay them? For from him and through him and for him are all things. To him be the glory forever." Jesus Christ is the wonderful counselor. Do we need other people that we're going to go talk to? Yes, totally. Do I truly believe those other people we talk to as a counselor, do I think they need to be faith-based? Totally. I dealt with two people this week that their lives are just imploding on them. And both of them, I said, you need to go to a faith-based Christian counselor who is biblically has a biblical foundation through Jesus Christ. Why? The wonderful counselor. Christ is the one that will walk with us. He's also mighty God. Some of you maybe chose mighty God, Nelva. Nelva chose mighty God Wednesday night. I think Nelva liked the idea of that warrior. God being that mighty God, God being the warrior, God being the one who will fight for us, not against us. How often haven't we at times felt like, why is God doing this to me? Have you ever said that? Why is God doing this to me? Can't God go pick on somebody else for a while? The reality is, God's not doing it to us. God is the mighty God who is fighting for us. God is the one who is walking with us. God is the one who wants to put that hedge of protection around us. Does that mean that bad things are not going to happen? No. And all you got to do is watch the news. And my heart aches over what's going on overseas with ISIS. Maybe some of you saw some of it this past week, how ISIS is using churches to do torture for Christians. I mean, your heart aches when you read that and say, God, what's going on? And God, just give them a protection. Be their mighty God. Be their warrior. Be the one that will fight for them, not against them. Be the one that will give them the ability to go through that which they're going to go through. And Scripture says, greater is he that is in me than he that is in... Okay, we'll try that again. Greater is he that is in me than he that is in... So greater is Christ and God in our lives as the mighty God fighting for us, not against us. You know, again, we just went through a couple of losses here at church. And Fred Toxapeus had his own video or a CD that he did that we played at his Celebration of Life service the other day. And he said that he had asked God, it's not why me, but why not me? It's pretty amazing. Why not me? God, you're going to fight for me. You're going to be with me. The mighty God. Wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father. Everlasting Father. Marilyn Mochika and Leon Kirkland, you two picked this. Everlasting Father. I asked them if I could use their names just so that you all think, oh, if we show up to the sermon study, is he going to call us out on Sunday morning? So they knew I was going to do this. They both chose Everlasting Father. A Father. Everlasting. From beginning to end. You know, we talk about that Jesus Christ is the Alpha and the Omega, the first and last of the Greek alphabet. Christ was there at creation. Christ would be there at the end of the world when he comes back for us. Everlasting. Father. Father is one who gives us security. One who provides for us. One who protects us when we're a child. Now, some of you maybe did not have a father who protected for you. Maybe some of you didn't have a father who provided for you when you were a child. Some of you might have a hard time with seeing God as a father. Others of you who maybe didn't have a father when your dad wasn't good, this one really resonates with you because you actually see how God is that father who will protect and who will provide and will walk with you as the dad does with a little child. The everlasting Father, the one who is the patriarch of the family. The word father also means chief. The chief. The head honcho. Everlasting. He wants to be there and walk with us and not allow the bad stuff to happen. But the problem is, it does happen, but he will be there with us to walk through the bad stuff of our life. Wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Scott Kirkland, back on the computer. Scott, you picked Prince of Peace, and so did my lovely wife. Do I get a bonus for saying that? Usually you're all saying I owe her stuff, so don't I get a what? So Sue picked. So they both picked the Prince of Peace. A prince is the head person. It's the ruler. It's the governor. Peace. Shalom. Shalom. Jesus Christ is the one who is the ruler, who is the leader of the peace within our life. So that when that storm on the ocean, on the lake is going on, and Christ is walking to the disciples, and they look out, and Peter says, "You're walking," and he says, "Come to me, Peter." And Peter starts to walk in the storm. Starts to walk on the water. It's when Christ is asleep in the boat with the disciples, and the storm is going on, and the disciples wake him up because, man, he is zonked out. And they say, "Jesus, don't you care? It's a storm." And he looks out and says, "Be still, wind and waves. Just calm down." Prince of Peace doesn't mean that he will always calm the storm, but he will calm you and I as we walk through the storm. Prince of Peace doesn't mean that everything's going to be just hunky-dory and smooth, but he is going to calm those of us that we walk through it. Shalom. Peace I leave with you. What does he say? Peace I leave with you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. The peace that I give to you is not like the world peace. What type of peace do we seek? We seek financial peace. We seek physical peace. We seek peace in our relationships. The peace that Christ gives to us is a peace of the relationship that we have with him. And as we seek God first with our heart, soul, mind, and strength, all these other things fall into place. And the peace that you and I so desperately need and want only comes as we walk with the Prince of Peace. Which takes us back to number one, Wonderful Counselor. How do we walk with him? We walk with him because we seek his counsel. We seek his guidance. We seek his direction. We seek to have his word as a light to our feet and a lamp to our path, which then allows us to understand that he's the mighty God. He is the warrior who fights for us, not against us. Well, as a warrior who fights for us. Who is that warrior? He's my daddy. I'm pretty good. He's my daddy. He's your daddy. He's your father. You ask Christ into your life, that mighty warrior is not some 5-star general out there someplace, but he is our daddy, the one close, nearby with us, which brings us back into when he fights for us, it gives us peace in our life. So again, I simply ask a simple question. Which one of these names resonates with you right now? Think about that for a couple seconds. Which one resonates? Which one speaks to you as one of his children? You see, within these 4 names, we need to realize that, number one, Jesus is the real deal. Christmas is not all about the presents. It's not all about the hype. It's not all about getting caught up in the crowds. I've had sort of fun the last 2 days. We've been doing the shopping, getting it all done, and just saying Merry Christmas to people and see how many will say Merry Christmas or how many do Happy Holidays. And once you sometimes say Merry Christmas after they've said Happy Holidays, I've noticed people will come back with Merry Christmas. It's like it gives them freedom. The reality is Christ is the real deal. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us, and we have beheld his glory. Christ is everything that we need, everything that we've expected. He is full of grace, full of glory. And these names and the Christmas time, it's all about the supremacy of Jesus Christ. Christ is supreme to all else. He is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Christ is my King. He is the wonderful Counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace.